Chapter 30. Afterward. 2 days after Williams's funeral, I paid my respects to his mother and sister at Mercer House. As I was leaving, a horse and carriage came clopping round the square and slowed to a stop in front of the house. From the sidewalk, I could hear the tour guide telling her 3 passengers that General Hugh Mercer had built the house during the Civil War, that the songwriter Johnny Mercer had grown up in it, and that Jacqueline Onassis had once offered to buy it for $2 million. To this by now familiar routine, the tour guide added that filmmakers had used the house in the previous spring to shoot scenes for the movie Glory. But she said nothing about Jim Williams or Danny Hansford or the sensational murder case that had captivated the city for so long. The tourists would leave Savannah in a few hours, enchanted by the elegance of this romantic garden city, but none the wiser about the secrets that lay within the innermost glades of its secluded bower. I too had been enchanted by Savannah, but after living there for 8 years, on and off, I had come to understand something of its self-imposed estrangement from the outside world. Pride was part of it, indifference was too, and so was arrogance. But underneath all of that, Savannah had only one motive: to preserve a way of life that it believed to be under siege from all sides. It was for this reason that Savannah had discouraged Prudential from establishing its regional headquarters in the city in the 1950s, and why Prudential had ended up in Jacksonville instead. It was why Savannah had given Giancarlo Menotti's Spoleto USA Festival the cold shoulder in the 1970s, and why the festival finally settled in Charlestown. Savannah was not much interested in what went on outside of Savannah. It had little enthusiasm for popular culture, as headline entertainers like Eric Clapton, Sting, George Carlin, Gladys Knight and the Pips had discovered when they had brought their acts to Savannah and found themselves playing to half-empty auditoriums. Savannah spurred all suitors, urban developers with grandiose plans and individuals, the Gucci carpetbaggers as Mary Harty had called them, who moved to Savannah and immediately began suggesting ways of improving the place. Savannah resisted every one of them as if they had been General William Tecumseh Sherman all over again. Sometimes that meant throwing up bureaucratic roadblocks. At other times, it meant telling tourists only what was good for them to know. Savannah was invariably gracious to strangers, but it was immune to their charms. It wanted nothing so much as to be left alone. Time and again, I was reminded of what Mary Harty had told me on my first day in town. We happen to like things just the way they are. I had no idea how deeply that sentiment rang until a revealing incident occurred late in my stay. The Chamber of Commerce hired an outside team of urban consultants to study Savannah's economic and social problems. When the consultants submitted their final report, they appended a note saying that in the course of their research they had asked 20 prominent Savannians where they thought the city should be in the next 5, 10 and 15 years. None of them had given the matter any thought. For me, Savannah's resistance to change was its saving grace. The city looked inward, sealed off from the noises and distractions of the outside world. It grew inward too, and in such a way that its people flourished like hothouse plants tended by an indulgent gardener. The ordinary became extraordinary. Eccentrics thrived. Every nuance and quirk of personality achieved greater brilliance in that lush enclosure than would have been possible anywhere else in the world. The end.